So welcome to the Privacy Camp 2017. Thanks to Edwin for organizing it. It's great to be here. And we want to talk, I have to talk louder. Yeah. Okay, we want to present this book. It's called Heat, and it's called The Handbook on the Evaluation of Anti-Terrorism Legislation. So why did we did it? Since 9/11, in the last 15 years, we've seen a lot in surveillance measure, the improvement of surveillance technologies and the expansion of surveillance powers, actually. And we just don't want to hink behind and go do litigation and go to the courts to bring lawsuits to fight those measures, those laws in Austria. We wanted choose another approach. So we provided this book, and it's basically an evaluation of all the surveillance measures and laws in Austria, the technology used by law enforcement authorities, and a first rough technology impact assessment. And we just who is addressed with this book, with Heat? It's of course lawmakers, it's the legal community, it's journalists, it's activists, and of course it's the civil society as a whole. And it's driven by the idea of the Überwachungsgesamtrechnung. This term in German, in English it would be translated as comprehensive surveillance footprint evaluation. It was first mentioned by the German Constitutional Court in Karlsruhe in 2010 in the case of the national implementation of the data retention directive. And the court basically says if you assess surveillance measures, and especially the proportionality, you have to take all given measures, surveillance measures, into account, and that may narrow the leeway of the lawmaker. So this is the idea behind Heat. Who did it? Epicenter Works, formerly AK Vorrat Austria, the working group on data retention Austria, which is quite known from the case Digital Rights Ireland. We brought the national implementation of the data retention directive to the Austrian Constitutional Court, which led to the ECJ case in Luxembourg. And the other partner was the Research Institute in Vienna. It's the Center for Digital Human Rights, and VISES, it's the Vienna Center for Societal Security. And I just want to give over to Christof, our chairman, and he talks about the methods and the criteria and the interdisciplinary approach we chose.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alec. Thank you for the floor. To save some time, what we saw very clearly already in the work of elaborating the complaint against data retention, that of course this is a topic with a lot of impacts on all the levels. That means particularly, of course, level of technology, level of law, but also, of course, level of social science, of societal science particularly. And what we saw there is we have to find somehow or provide the kind of a red line through a very complex mixture of different laws. So because it is not obvious what has a criminal proceeding code to do with Telecommunications Act and with E-Commerce Act, for example. Yeah? And our approach is firstly on a legal level to see all the norms that are in core, first of all providing for this kind of surveillance, but with connection to other laws, particularly in the field where private companies are determined, and then by public law data is grabbed from private companies. That was one part that shall particularly show in the book also interconnections, what, for example, has to do the wording in the criminal code according to the membership of a terrorist organizations, what has this to do with the possibility to access IP addresses? And what we try there is to somehow reduce the clouds there, to give more light, to give more, and then combine it with the other disciplines. So we list all the technologies that are actually available, and we distinct there technologies that are already foreseen by law, technologies that are in place but not foreseen by law. But as far as we know, they are maybe already used, at least existing on the market, like open source intelligence tools, for example. And also these cases where we see that technology is provided for by law, but just for a part, like an IMSI catcher, for example, where the law says yes for localizing, but the technology is able to make really a tracking of the content, a lawful or not lawful, but an interception of content, even though the law does not provide for it. So we tried to figure out, we worked with also parliamentary requests with members of the parliament in Austria, with who we were more close. And in the end, the output of all this, also combined with the societal questions behind it, and already a lot of research that has been done there in the last years, to bring out two things. One thing is a set of criteria, whereas not everything is completely new. Basically, it is following the systematic of the European Court of Human Rights to the proportionality principle, like criteria, there is a legal base. That means how determined is the legal base? Does it provide for everything the technology allows? Is the measure at all feasible to suit the purpose that has at least claimed to be the purpose for the measure? Is it then, if it's suitable, is it really the lowest interference possible, or would it be possible to have another instrument to reach the same purpose? And then, of course, in the end, what about the cost of it? What about the balancing? That means the proportionality in the narrow sense. We bring this catalog of criteria. This is not just the top of the iceberg. We go by analyzing jurisprudence, particularly as much as possible on European level, to bring criteria out, but not in the very typical lawyer's way, where we have like kilometers of paper just full written, but we do a more intuitive approach. That means we work with mind maps. We work with mind maps where we can bring references and everything. We can, you don't need to be a lawyer anymore to be able to read these things. We have the second big part on the side of that set of criteria. We have an action catalog. An action catalog that is a recommendation, of course, basically for public administration, for the government, but addressing also others, where we say where to put priority with methodology, to think it really as we know it in the, for example, in the topic of information security, to follow a dynamic thinking of a plan, do, check, act cycle. Not anymore let the legislator who really write the law text being the ones who have to assess all these questions, which has to be in a proper risk assessment there. And these things together are provided in a way that they are understandable, that they can address civil society, but also policymakers, lawmakers, public security officials, and so on. And the plan is in the next step, when you see, for example, this kind of mind maps, these tools are meant to be in the next step online also. That means to have an online version. We want to provide soon, in the course of this year, ambitious goal is in the middle of 2070, really a book, a printed version that is published from a publishing house, but also with an online version that provides for a bit more interactivity, because the potential is big, especially for participation of civil society, that we can provide for easier possibilities in a complex environment to point the arguments directly there. And this is the approach for what we want to further develop it. And particularly, therefore, of course, we want to leave just the borders of Austria. It is mainly made for the situation of Austria, but a lot of topics, what we see, a lot of topics are European topics. They are not just there. So our next step is now really to bring it on the European level. So we highly appreciate today this chance to introduce it here. We're going to try all contacts, all cooperations that we can make awareness of this approach, because we did a lot of work that is part of such an evaluation we already did. as a hand reaching from civil society. We are not just against it, we are providing real work for that, and we want to find together solutions there. So I might use the opportunity to motivate you to spread the word about it, whoever might be interested, or if you know yourself, you have our contacts. We highly appreciate any kind of cooperation there on European level. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Just a short follow-up. If you're interested in German speaking, the book, the handbook, is a PDF under a Creative Commons license available on our website. And of course, we're working it to translate it into English. And we provided a short info sheet in English for you, and we brought it with you. Thank you very much.